Chapter 12-14. Han Xiling and the rest stared wide-eyed at Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest who had suddenly disappeared. Their faces were filled with disbelief. What's going on? Wu Yuexin was confused. Where are Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest? I don't know. Why did they suddenly disappear? That's too weird. Everyone was confused. They had never heard of such a situation before. It was too strange. Han Xiling's face turned extremely pale the moment she saw Bailey Hongzhuang disappear. Bailey Hongzhuang had disappeared. What about her voice? Was she going to be a mute forever? When Han Xiling thought of that, she was about to break down. She could not accept such a thing. Han Xiling was furious. She immediately ordered Wu Yuexin and the rest to look for Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, Wu Yuexin and the rest could only stare at Han Xiling with their mouths agape. They did not understand what Han Xiling was talking about. Just as Han Xiling was about to go crazy, Wu Yuexin and the rest finally understood. They immediately spread out to look for Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. 5 living people could not have disappeared into thin air. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest opened their eyes again, they realized that they were in another place. Although it was still a forest in front of them, the scenery was obviously different from what they had seen before. They seemed to be in the outer part of the forest. The trees were not too dense. Looking out, they could even see a path. What happened just now? Bai Junyu looked at everything around him in surprise. The scene just now happened too suddenly. He still didn't know what was going on and he was already in another place. It was really too strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She did not understand what was going on either. However, the feeling of energy just now was the same as the energy they felt in the teleportation portal. Could it be that we've been teleported again? Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with doubt and confusion. Logically speaking, they had been teleported to the small world with Han Xiling and the others. How could the 5 of them suddenly be teleported again? Moreover, it seemed like someone had deliberately sent the 5 of them to another place. This was too strange. Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu looked at each other. They also didn't understand what was going on. In the next moment, everyone's eyes suddenly focused on Xia Jiqing. Usually, in this kind of situation, the first one who couldn't help but speak would be Xia Jiqing. Now all of them felt puzzled, but only Xia Jiqing hadn't spoken. Obviously, there was a problem. Feeling everyone's questioning eyes, Xia Jiqing could only raise her hand and surrender. Okay, I'll turn myself in. Xia Jiqing raised her hands helplessly. Hearing this, everyone just continued to look at Xia Jiqing, wanting to know what was going on. Jiqing, what's going on? Bai Junyu walked to Xia Jiqing's side and asked curiously. This is what Di Beichen told me to do. Xia Jiqing admitted frankly. In fact, this was not a secret. Di Beichen knew that once we arrived in the small world, Han Xiling would definitely make a move on us. With our current strength, we are not Han Xiling's opponents. So Di Beichen told me to crush this teleportation stone when the situation was bad. Chapter 12-15. So that's how it is, Di Beichen is worried about your safety. Gong Shaoqing stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, thinking that this transmission stone would not be a simple thing. Di Beichen could think of Bailey Hongzhuang to this extent, which was enough to prove his feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang. At least between Han Xiling and Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen was completely on the side of Bailey Hongzhuang. Dong Fangyu and Bai Junyu also showed a look of understanding. It turned out that Di Beichen said that he would think of a way. Master, what does this mean? Could it be that Di Beichen wants to stop you from killing Han Xiling? Xiao He frowned unhappily. With their strength, it was not difficult to deal with Han Xiling and others. As long as the 3 beasts attacked together, Han Xiling, Wu Yuexin, and others would not be their opponents at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a light of thought, and the corners of her lips slowly evoked a bright smile. Beichen said to use it when the situation is not good. He is worried that there will be a change in the middle, and we will be in danger. It's just that Jiqing thought that Han Xiling attacking us meant that the situation was not good, so she directly crushed the transmission stone. Bailey Hongzhuang only thought for a moment and had already figured out the reason. Jiqing did not know her true strength, only that her cultivation was weaker than Han Xiling. What's more, in the case of 8 people besieging them, anyone would think that they had no chance of winning. Hearing this, the 3 beasts also understood. The situation was indeed like this. Now Han Xiling must be crazy, she has become mute. Xia Jiqing's face was full of excitement. I used to think that Han Xiling's words were very unpleasant, now that she has become mute, it's really good. Yeah, the most depressed one now is Han Xiling. Bai Junyu also laughed. Xia Jiqing couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, Hongzhuang, will Han Xiling's throat be cured automatically? She knew that Hongzhuang's medical skills had always been amazing, but Hongzhuang just casually made a move, maybe she only temporarily made Han Xiling mute. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips slightly hooked, as long as I don't make a move, Han Xiling's throat will not get better. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, not only Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu, but Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing also couldn't help but laugh. Han Xiling really went for wool and came home shorn. In the following days in the small world, she would be very painful. In fact, as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others expected, Han Xiling collapsed after knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were missing. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Han Xiling screamed crazily, she couldn't accept that she had become mute. However, no matter how she tried to speak, she couldn't make any sound. This feeling was driving her crazy. Wu Yuexin and the others looked around but didn't find any trace of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not in this area, although they didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang and the others disappeared. Miss Han, we have looked around here, there is no trace of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 12-16. Listening to Wu Yuexin's answer, Han Xiling became even angrier. She simply didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would disappear into thin air. They must be hiding somewhere nearby. The most important thing was that if Bailey Hongzhuang really disappeared, then she would really become a mute. When she thought of living in the small world as a mute for 2 years, she was going crazy. The next moment, Han Xiling raised her long sword and wrote 3 big words on the ground, "Continue to search." Her delicate and cold face was filled with ruthlessness and determination. If she didn't find Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, she absolutely wouldn't let this go. Looking at Han Xiling's appearance, Wu Yuexin's eyes also showed helplessness. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others disappeared into thin air. It was impossible for them to be nearby. However, she also knew that the current Han Xiling was extremely paranoid. No matter what she said, it was useless. She could only continue to call for other cultivators to search nearby. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood in place and looked at the surrounding environment before they were ready to set off. They were now also in the periphery of the small world. In 2 years, they had to constantly get closer to the center of the small world. Since we have already arrived in the small world, let's confirm the identity card first. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the black identity card. Only by activating the identity card would they be able to get points for killing demonic beasts. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xia Jiqing and the others took out their identity cards and immediately picked up a sharp blade to cut their fingers and dripped blood on the identity card. After the blood dripped on the identity card, it quickly merged into it. The originally dark identity card quietly flashed with a touch of light, and then everyone found that their names and points appeared on the identity card. However, their points were currently 0. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes were filled with a touch of amazement. This identity card was already very magical. The means of this big force is really beyond our understanding. As long as we drip blood, this identity card will directly show our identity. It's really special. Dong Fangyu's starry eyes flickered with astonishment as a warm smile blossomed on his face. That's right. There are still many things in this world that we haven't seen before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. There was a big difference between the world 1,000 years later and the world 1,000 years ago. Things like identity cards didn't exist 1,000 years ago. Han Zhuang, although we are now separated from Han Xiling, as long as we get closer to the center of the small world, we will meet them again sooner or later. Xia Jiqing frowned. Han Xiling was really a problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile. The next time we see Han Xiling, we'll take their lives. This time, even if Han Xiling was lucky enough to escape, the next time she met Han Xiling, she would definitely not let Han Xiling leave alive. As for this period of time, she would let Han Xiling be a mute for a period of time. Thinking about it, this kind of feeling would make her collapse even more. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang once again looked at the road in front of them and said, "Let's set off quickly. There are many monster beasts in this small world. I heard that it would be very dangerous to stay in the forest at night. Fortunately, there are cities in this small world." Chapter 12-17. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded. Before they came to the small world, Bewitching had already told them about this. It was early in the morning, and they still had time to rush to the city. Otherwise, if they had to spend the night outside, it would not be a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the identity card in her hand, and her spiritual awareness spread in. Then, a map of the small world appeared in her mind. After determining the direction, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately began to rush to the city in front of them. The 5 people walked along the road. Baisher lay on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, and Bailey Hongzhuang had been holding the Luli sword in her hand. This place was at the edge of the forest. Although the possibility of monsters appearing was not great, it was not impossible. After all, in the 3 years before this, there were no cultivators in the small world, only monsters. This meant that in the past 3 years, the small world was completely a world of monsters. They ran rampant everywhere without any scruples. The 5 people moved very quickly, and while walking, they looked at the surrounding situation. They clenched their weapons in their hands, and their spiritual power was extremely concentrated. As long as a monster appeared, they would definitely kill it at the fastest speed. The vegetation in this small world is much more lush than the outside world. In the outside world, there are only such plants in the deep mountains and forests. Xia Jiqing sighed as she walked. So far, they had not found any teams, nor had they seen any monsters. It was as if there were only 5 of them in the whole world. Not only that, there are almost no roads in the forest, and it is very inconvenient to walk. Bai Junyu sighed. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Although this is a small world, the scope is very large. There are many cultivators who participate in the assessment every time, but compared to the small world, the number is not much. Even if the cultivators happen to walk this road, after 3 years, it would have been overgrown with weeds. This situation is normal. I'm afraid we'll have to stay in this forest for the next 2 years. Will we become primitive people? Xia Jiqing wiped the sweat from her forehead. It was much hotter here than outside. Even if we really become primitive people, we'll change together, Dongfang Yu teased. Fortunately, Di Beichen reminded us that the temperature in this small world is rather special. We also prepared enough clothes. Now, I only feel that water is the most important thing in this small world. If he didn't take a proper bath in such a place, he wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Everyone chatted as they talked, and time passed quickly. However, after walking for a while, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but frown. Isn't there a lot of monsters in this small world? Why haven't we seen a single demonic beast yet? That seems a little too strange. Not only Xia Jiqing, but Gong Shaoqing, Dongfang Yu, and the others also felt very strange. According to what Di Beichen had told them before, this small world was densely populated with demonic beasts. It wouldn't be long before they would be attacked by demonic beasts, so they had to be careful. However, the current situation was clearly different from what they had imagined. White Lion, did you forget to restrain your aura? Xiao He hurriedly asked. Chapter 12-18. Listening to Xiao Hei's words, Baisher was stunned for a moment, and then he guiltily restrained his aura. Previously, he had been following his master in the outside world and had not been in the mountains, so he was used to releasing his aura. At this moment, he had forgotten. Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baisher's small head. Speaking of which, Baisher's identity as a Beast King could also give her a lot of help in this small world. This is because of Baisher. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile as she explained to Xia Jiqing and the others. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion, not understanding what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. Hongzhuang, what does this mean? I don't understand. Xia Jiqing was puzzled. Gong Shaoqing looked at Baisher, his eyes flashing with a thoughtful light. Hongzhuang, could it be that White Lion's level is very high, so many demon beasts are avoiding him? Baisher's small size made it difficult for people to believe that he was a great pharmacist, but according to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, they could not think of any other explanation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes. Xia Jiqing curiously looked at Baisher on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, her eyes flashing with a little bit of amazement. I didn't expect this little guy to have such a high level even though he doesn't seem to have any lethality. Xia Jiqing reached out and touched Baisher's small head. Baisher lazily lay on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, letting Xia Jiqing stroke his hair. He had been with his master for so long, whether he was an enemy or a friend could be said to be very clear. Baisher is a Beast King, so where it appears, monsters generally won't appear. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, and her right hand touched Baisher's head, revealing the king character on his head. Speaking of which, White Lion had never shown its true appearance when it was with her. Now that it was in the small world, there was no need for it to continue hiding. However, with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xia Jiqing and the others were all stunned for a moment. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang incredulously, wondering if they had heard wrong. Hongzhuang, what did you say White Lion is? Xia Jiqing asked again, and the eyes of Gong Shaoqing and the others were also fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Beast King. Bailey Hongzhuang confirmed her answer. As soon as these words came out, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but open her mouth wide as she stared at Baisher. You said this little guy is a Beast King? Although the answer had been confirmed, Xia Jiqing still couldn't believe it. After all, the White Lion's adorable appearance was poles apart from the image of a Beast King in her mind. Hongzhuang, how did you form a contract with a Beast King? Dongfang you couldn't help but ask. For monsters at the level of a Beast King, it was impossible for ordinary cultivators to form a contract with it. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation talent was very good, her current strength was still very weak and was not enough to form a contract with it. This was also a coincidence. In fact, I didn't know that Baisher was a Beast King before. I only found out later. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened a little. Speaking of which, her luck was really good. She could even meet such a rare Beast King. If Xianyuan Yutian knew that the monster egg he rewarded was actually a Beast King, he was afraid that his intestines would turn green with regret. Gong Shaoqing looked at Baisher. He still remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang had asked him if he knew what kind of monster Baisher was. Chapter 12-19. Hongzhuang, you're really amazing. Xia Jiqing exclaimed, even the Beast King, a monster beast that is impossible to contract, has been contracted by you. I always feel that anything special happening to you wouldn't be strange. In fact, ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had refreshed her understanding time and time again. Now that she had even contracted the Beast King, what else was impossible? Dongfang Yu and the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. She was indeed a different woman. From the first time they saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they had already felt this kind of extraordinariness. Seeing everyone mention this topic, Bailey Hongzhuang directly put Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai on top of her head. In that case, I would like to introduce these two little guys to everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai showed a strong excitement after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They had wanted to appear in front of everyone for a long time. Xia Jiqing and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. There was no one else here except for them. What did Bailey Hongzhuang mean by this? This was simply too incomprehensible. Hongzhuang, who are you talking about? Xia Jiqing asked aloud. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile, and her eyes turned to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately understood, and immediately, they gradually became the same size as Baisher in front of everyone's astonished eyes. Looking at the two hairy balls that suddenly appeared, Xia Jiqing and the others were all stunned for a moment, and their faces were full of surprise. Hongzhuang, what are these two little guys? Xia Jiqing's mouth was wide open as she looked at the black and white fur balls in front of her. Isn't this too weird? They are also my contract beasts, Xiao He and Xiao Bai, Bailey Hongzhuang introduced. The eyes of Xia Jiqing and the others were still focused on Xiao He and Xiao Bai because these two little guys could change their sizes. Why can they change their size at will? Xia Jiqing stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang. She had never seen a monster beast that could change its size at will. It was really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. This should be their special ability. In fact, she didn't understand this either. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's ability to change their sizes at will was really heaven-defying. Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's hair. She had noticed the black and white hair clip on Hongzhuang's hair before. She had always thought that Hongzhuang liked this hair clip very much, or that this hair clip had a very important meaning to Hongzhuang. However, she had never thought that this hair clip would turn out to be two monster beasts. Thinking about it, this kind of thing was impossible for anyone to think of. These two little fellows have been hiding for too long, haven't they?
Xia Jiqing sighed faintly. The things around Hongzhuang were also not simple. While Xia Jiqing and the others were sighing at the magic of Xiao He and Xiao Bai, Gong Shaoqing's handsome eyebrows slightly raised. He said, Hongzhuang, do you mean that you have 3 monster beasts? This was the most strange thing. As everyone knew, each cultivator could only contract 1 monster beast. Not to mention that although there were many monster beasts, there were very few monster beasts that could be contracted by cultivators. Therefore, many cultivators didn't even have a single monster beast.
Chapter 12:20. Listening to Gong Shaoqing's words, the expressions of Xia Jiqing and the others changed. Previously, they were amazed by Xiao He and Xiao Bai's ability to change their sizes, but they forgot the most important thing. That's right. Hongzhuang, how did you manage to contract 3 demonic beasts? Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang incredulously. Although she knew that Hongzhuang had always been special, this was too special. I'm not very clear about this. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. She had no way to explain this point. She couldn't say that she was the owner of the Chaos Ring, so there was no limit to the number of contracted beasts, right? If she said this, it would be tantamount to exposing the secret of the Chaos Ring, which was not a wise behavior. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's innocent expression, the emotions in everyone's heart deepened. They did not doubt Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They thought that this could only be attributed to Bailey Hongzhuang's talent. When they thought of this, everyone felt even more helpless. Every time Hongzhuang did something, it was always amazing. Hongzhuang, you are really against the heavens. You even have such a magical ability. Xia Jiqing shook her head with emotion. Comparisons were odious, and now was the best embodiment. Gong Shaoqing and the others didn't know what to say at the moment. Hongzhuang's talent, ability, and luck were too heaven-defying. A cultivator with excellent conditions, coupled with her hard work, if she didn't have any results, it was simply impossible. I don't know what to say. Hongzhuang, you are really amazing. Bai Junyu said with emotion. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that there was no difference between them, but now he only felt that there was a huge gap between them from beginning to end. As time passed, he was afraid that the gap would become bigger and bigger. Xiao He and Xiao Bai will follow us in the future. Their strength is also very strong. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The black and white double demons had been enduring for so long, now it was time to appear in front of everyone. For Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone was not surprised at all. The master was so abnormal, the strength of the beasts would naturally not be bad. After all, even the Beast King had recognized Bailey Hongzhuang as its master. When they thought of this, everyone only felt an indescribable difference in their hearts. Hongzhuang was really too abnormal. Everyone continued to move forward. And Xiao He and Xiao Bai's figure once again became a little bigger. And followed Bailey Hongzhuang. And Bailey Hongzhuang's body, they looked like they were the two little brothers. Bailey Hongzhuang. After Baisher withdrew his aura, everyone walked for a while. Suddenly, a black figure rushed towards the group like lightning. Seeing the sudden appearance of the black figure, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly raised her glass sword and directly stabbed at the black figure. Although the black figure's speed was very fast, Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were even faster. With just a simple stab, the black figure fell under Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp sword. Only then did everyone clearly see that this black figure was actually a black fox mink. This black fox ferret's speed is very fast. Ordinary black fox ferrets are not that fast. Dongfang Yu's eyes were filled with a trace of astonishment. The black fox ferret's level was not high. With their strength, it was not a problem to deal with it.
Chapter 12:21. Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely fast. With a swipe of her glass sword, she directly took out the demon crystal from the black fox ferret. With a casual toss, White Lion caught the demon crystal and began to chew on it. Indeed, the speed of this black fox ferret is much faster than the black fox ferrets in the outside world. Whether it is speed or power, it is much stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was warm and light, her phoenix eyes flashing with the light of wisdom. The yuan qi of the small world is far richer than the outside world. These monsters are in such abundant yuan qi all year round. It is not surprising that their strength is stronger than the monsters in the outside world. Xia Jiqing's face showed a look of realization, so, the monsters in this small world are more difficult to deal with. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. It seems that we can't judge the strength of the monsters in the same way as before. For a while, everyone's expression was dignified. In these 2 years in the small world, they needed to be careful everywhere. As everyone continued to move forward, monsters appeared from time to time, which also made everyone understand how many monsters there were in the small world. Fortunately, everyone was full of energy, and the monsters that appeared were not too strong, so they successfully defeated the monsters after fighting for a while. Among all of them, Baisher was the happiest. In this small world, the demon crystal was really everywhere. After seeing several monsters, everyone finally believed in Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment. All the monsters here were a bit stronger than the outside world, and it was more difficult to deal with them. As everyone beheaded the monsters, they also found that the points on their identity cards were also increasing. Different levels of monsters had different points, and the final result was judged according to their points. Just during the day, there are so many monsters. If it is at night, the number of monsters will be even more terrifying. Bai Junyu's eyes were filled with emotion. He finally understood Di Beichen's advice before. They must enter the city at night, otherwise they would not have time to rest for the whole night. Our luck is already good. We are currently in the periphery of the forest. If we are transmitted into the forest, the situation will be even worse, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. His eyes were filled with wisdom. Let's speed up and get to the city as soon as possible. They had just come to the small world. Even if they had already learned some news before, when they faced it personally, they would always find more problems. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the map. Our current position is not too far from the city. As long as there are no accidents, we will be able to reach the city before night. Everyone looked at each other and smiled. They continued to move forward, but their speed was slightly faster than before.
While Bailey Hongzhuang and others were rushing, the cultivators scattered in various parts of the small world were also rushing to the city, hoping to reach it as fast as possible. At the same time, Tian Gangzong's Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng also bid farewell to Di Beichen. Di Beichen, we will take our leave. Cui Haoyan cupped his fists. Di Beichen looked at Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng, I will let He Mu escort you back. Hearing this, Cui Haoyan waved his hand, no need, the two of us can also gain experience on the road. There is no need to trouble yourself. Chapter 1222. Seeing that Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's attitude was very resolute, Di Beichen no longer insisted. In that case, I'll let He Mu send you out of Tiangang's sect. The area of Tiangang's sect was relatively hidden. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had only been here once, and perhaps they didn't know enough. Hearing this, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng looked at each other and nodded, okay, thank you. We're all friends, no need to thank me. Di Beichen smiled. With just a look, He Mu immediately walked in front of Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng. Mr. Cui, Miss Zhang, I'll send you out. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng nodded slightly and bowed to Di Beichen before following He Mu down the mountain. After leaving Tiangang's sect this time, they didn't know if they would have a chance to come again in the future. Both of them sighed in their hearts. It was a big regret for them to miss this opportunity. However, for this regret, their mood was also very complicated. If they could come out of the small world, it would naturally be excellent. However, they also understood the extremely high mortality rate of the small world, and a little carelessness could cause them to lose their lives there. None of them could afford such a result. When they were in the assessment array, they had already experienced the feeling of death once, and that feeling was really terrifying. Speaking of which, they were not as confident as Bailey Hongzhuang, who believed that they would be able to come out of the small world. On the contrary, in the face of the endless excellent cultivators, they were somewhat inferior. When they thought that Xia Jiqing and the others had persisted for 3 incense sticks of time, and they only persisted for 1 or 2 incense sticks of time, this already proved a lot of problems. Perhaps this was the difference in choice. After Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng left, Di Beichen returned to his palace. However, when he returned to the palace, he found that Si Tuyen was already waiting for him. Master. Di Beichen respectfully bowed. For him, the most qualified person in the world was Si Tuyen. A kind smile appeared on Si Tuyen's face. Those 2 little guys have left? Di Beichen nodded slightly. He has already left. Those 2 little fellows are not suitable for the competition. Not participating is the right decision. Si Tuyen said slowly. His old and sharp eyes flickered with wisdom. With Cui Haoyan's strength, he should be able to participate in the assessment. Di Beichen sighed. Zhang Yunfeng's strength was slightly lacking, but Cui Haoyan's strength was not a problem. Who would have thought that Cui Haoyan would fail? This was a problem with his willpower. The cultivation talent of these 2 little fellows is not bad, but their willpower is not firm enough. If they go to the small world, it is very likely that they will lose their lives. This outcome is best for them. Si Tuyen's smile was deep and kind. Every cultivator had different choices. There was no right or wrong in this, as long as he didn't regret it. Di Beichen sighed and nodded. Indeed, everyone has different choices. Hearing this, Si Tuyen looked at Di Beichen. So, are you sure about your choice? Di Beichen was stunned and looked at Si Tuyen in surprise. However, he quickly responded, yes. Are you sure that you have no feelings for Xiling over the years? Si Tuyen asked. I have always regarded Xiling as a sister. There is no love between men and women. Chapter 1223. So, are you sure you want Bailey Hongzhuang? Si Tuyen asked again. Di Beichen nodded heavily. I'm sure. The only woman I like in my life is Hongzhuang. Si Tuyen looked deeply at Di Beichen but did not say anything. Looking at Si Tuyen's expression, Di Beichen was a little anxious. Master had never shown any objection before. Could it be that Master did not agree in his heart? Just as Bewitching was about to speak, Si-Tu Yan's voice sounded. Since you've already made your choice, stick to your choice and don't hurt her. Bewitching was stunned at first, then a happy smile appeared on his face. Master, don't worry. I'll stick to it. It's just that. Bewitching looked a little helpless. Master, I'm afraid it's not easy to deal with the Great Elder. Xiao Hongzhen and Jiang Yi had been dealt with, but the Great Elder had stayed in Tiangang's sect for a long time. Moreover, he had never had much conflict with the Great Elder. It was only because of the Han Shilling that there was a conflict between him and the Great Elder. Moreover, from the Great Elder's point of view, this was not difficult to understand. Never force your feelings for some other reasons. Other problems will be solved sooner or later, but once you miss it, it can't be made up. Si-Tu Yan turned around and left after leaving a sentence, but his back looked a little lonely. Looking at Si-Tu Yan who left, Bewitching's eyes were filled with a faint light. He only felt that his master was very emotional when he said this sentence. Thinking about it, there must be a story about his master. Otherwise, his master would not have said such a thing. Thinking of this, Bewitching suddenly remembered that he had occasionally seen his master's lonely look over the years. Speaking of which, he had never seen any woman appear by his master's side as long as he could remember. With his master's excellence, it was impossible for there not to be a woman who liked him, but his master had never been interested. Now that he thought about it, there should have been someone living in his master's heart. It was just that he didn't know about it. Thinking of this, Bewitching was even more curious. What had happened to his master in the past? What kind of woman could make his master so lonely? Bewitching pondered for a moment. He felt that he had to find an opportunity to find out more. All these years, his master had never mentioned this matter, but it was precisely because of this that he was even more convinced that his master had never let it go. If possible, he also hoped that he could do something for his master. The sky gradually darkened, and the small world slowly descended with the curtain of night. The originally dry and hot temperature also dropped. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were still on their way. Originally, with their speed, they should have been able to reach the city before nightfall. However, there were simply too many demonic beasts along the way. Most importantly, they had encountered a group of demonic beasts along the way. The battle had taken a long time, so they had not reached the city yet. I have now seen how terrifying the number of demonic beasts in the small world is. The reproduction rate of these demonic beasts is too scary. Xia Jiqing's face was full of depression. There were too many obstacles, one wave after another. It was simply overwhelming. Chapter 12:24. Come to think of it, the monster beast war many years ago was also extremely terrifying. Bai Junyu faintly sighed. Just by looking at the number of monster beasts, he could tell. Once these monster beasts reached the outside world, it would definitely be a huge disaster. The monster beast's reproduction speed is far from what cultivators can compare to. This situation is not strange. Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent expression, her dark phoenix eyes filled with wisdom. Humans' intelligence was higher than monster beasts, but their reproduction speed could not be compared. It was precisely because of this that humans and cultivators had always maintained a state of balance. Our task in these 2 years can be described as difficult. I'm afraid that from here to the center of the small world, there will be many monster beasts. Bai Junyu sighed. Dongfang Yu chuckled. Now, every monster beast killed means more points. At that time, it won't be monster beasts attacking us, but us looking for monster beasts. Their purpose of entering the small world was to kill monster beasts. Having monster beasts appear in front of them was definitely a good thing, not a bad thing. Gong Shaoqing nodded slightly. We can be considered to be earning points while eliminating hidden dangers in the Xingxian continent. Hearing this, everyone's faces were filled with smiles. In the following days, they would have to face monster beasts every day. Roar, roar, the sounds of monster beasts rose and fell one after another. In this silent night, it was unusually clear, making people shudder. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sped up. The monster beast's vision at night was more sensitive than theirs. With their current strength, they could not stay too long in the night. Otherwise, if they encountered a wave of monster beasts, it would be really troublesome. After walking for a while, Xia Jiqing's joyful voice sounded, "Look, the city is in front." With Xia Jiqing's voice falling, everyone looked forward. The outline of the city had already appeared. This city was larger than everyone had imagined, especially the city walls. They were higher than any city walls they had seen before. Seeing this scene, everyone's heart was filled with joy. Immediately, the speed of their feet increased a bit. Fortunately, although they could hear monster beasts along the way, there were no monster beasts attacking them. With everyone moving at full speed, they finally arrived at the city. The moment they entered the city, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. This wall is really high. It's the first time I've seen such a high wall. It's really shocking, Xia Jiqing said with emotion. Dongfang Yu's face rippled with a smile like a spring breeze. There are so many demonic beasts in this small world. If the city walls aren't high enough and sturdy enough, the danger will increase by a lot. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly and thought about it carefully. She also understood this point. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the city's environment. The buildings here were built very simply. They couldn't be said to be very luxurious, but there was a trace of magnificence in the simplicity, which was shocking. This city is so empty. Are there no other cultivators here other than us? Bai Junyu furrowed his brows in confusion. Although the cultivators from each dynasty were scattered all over the place, this city shouldn't have only one group of cultivators. Chapter 12:25. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baishe swaggered in front. There were no other cultivators in this huge city, and it felt very good. Maybe we just arrived early, and the other cultivators haven't arrived yet. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. The cultivators of each dynasty were randomly teleported, and maybe they were further away than them. After all, no matter which city it was, there would always be a team that arrived first. In fact, the location they were teleported to today was not far from the city, but they still couldn't arrive before dark. Thinking about it, the other cultivators' situation would not be much better than theirs. This is also possible. Xia Jiqing nodded, then let's just find a house to stay in. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and agreed. Suddenly, the five of them randomly found 5 connected houses to stay in. They would rest tonight, and they would continue tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the house. Everything in the house was very simple, and even the bed was a stone bed. However, it was also because of this arrangement that it could be maintained for so many years. Otherwise, these things would have been broken long ago. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the dry food. They had been on the road today and hadn't eaten since noon. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang take out the dry food, Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with excitement, and they immediately went to Bailey Hongzhuang. They were also hungry. In contrast, Baishe was lazily lying on the stone bed. Today, the eyes of the monsters that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others killed all went into his stomach, and he was very full. Even when he went to the Luoyun Mountains, he didn't eat so many monster crystals in a day. Now he only felt that the small world was a big blessing for him, and so many monster crystals could help him improve his cultivation again. After all, his master was already at the Orange Realm, and he was still at the Red Realm. This strength was not enough. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were very strong, and he was a beast king. If he was too weak, it would be too embarrassing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eager little eyes, and the smile in her eyes deepened. These 2 little guys were really foodies. Speaking of which, Bewitching and He Mu knew these 3 foodies very well. Therefore, when she came to the small world this time, Bewitching prepared the most dry food for her. Otherwise, with these 3 foodies by her side, she was afraid that before the end of the 2 years, the dry food would be gone. She took out the food in front of Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately took the food and ate happily. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. After eating the food, she went into cultivation mode. The 2 years in the small world was a good opportunity to improve her strength. In order to save her parents after leaving the small world, she had to make full use of every second and could not relax. Moreover, she had not met any other cultivators yet, so it was the easiest time. The outstanding cultivators of the various forces and dynasties must be very strong. She had to improve her strength to be more confident. It wasn't easy to stay in the small world for 2 years. Strength was the foundation of survival. Chapter 12:26. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had begun to cultivate, the 3 beasts also began to cultivate after finishing their food. They already knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's background. When their master was increasing her power, they naturally could not fall behind. As their master's contracted beasts, their job was to help their master complete everything she wanted to do. They wanted to help their master get rid of those bad guys. The house quickly fell into silence. Other than the sound of light breathing, there was no other sound. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, the situation in the other 4 houses was the same. Obtaining a place to participate in the assessment competition was never the completion of a task. It was the starting point of everything. None of them had time to waste. Only by increasing their power could they successfully enter the sect. Furthermore, the existence of a genius like Bailey Hongzhuang gave them a lot of pressure. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang's power was not much different from theirs. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was now at the Orange Realm while they were still at the Red Realm. The gap between them wasn't small at all. If they continued to be lazy, the gap would continue to widen. This was not something they wanted to see. The next day, when the sky had just brightened, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest got up and gathered outside the house. Now, they had to rush back to the city before nightfall. As such, they did not have much time left. Hence, they had to set off earlier. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest walked out of the house, they noticed a few other teams in the city. As expected, they were only the first team to reach the city. Seeing that there were other cultivators, everyone relaxed a little. This at least proved that there were still quite a number of cultivators who came to the small world. What are your plans for today? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze swept across everyone. For the next 2 years, they would be staying in the small world. No matter what, they would need to discuss it together. Now, we have 2 choices. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes rippled with the light of thinking. His unchanging iceberg face was still cold, but compared to when he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, his temperature had undoubtedly increased a lot. First, we can continue to live in this city. We can hunt demonic beasts during the day and come back before dark. Secondly, we can head to the next city and try to reach it before nightfall. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Based on the current situation, they only had these 2 choices. Bailey Hongzhuang checked the map on the identity card, and her pretty face also flickered with a thoughtful expression. I don't care. Xia Jiqing said indifferently. In her opinion, there was not much difference between these 2 methods. No matter which one, she had no problem with it. Bai Junyu also did not have any objections. This kind of thing only needed everyone to decide on a direction together. In the next moment, everyone's gaze involuntarily fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was the youngest among them, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were enough for her to be the leader. Everyone was also used to listening to her opinions. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was now the strongest in their team. Feeling everyone's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "In my opinion, we should live in this city for the time being." He didn't expect that the identity card would calculate the points of all 3 beasts. In that case, the setting of the identity card also recognized how many contracted beasts a cultivator had. Yeah, Xia Jiqing's face was filled with amazement. Hongzhuang, you are really amazing. With 3 helpers, your points will definitely be higher than many cultivators. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, everyone nodded. The three beasts' combat effectiveness was not bad. As a result, it was equivalent to 4 people earning points together. The number of points Hong Zhuang's points could be imagined. Chapter 12:28. After the three beasts heard the news, their eyes were filled with pride. As their master's contract beasts, they could help their master a lot. For a while, Bai Junyu and the others couldn't help but feel envious. Hong Zhuang had 3 contract beasts. In this point, many cultivators simply couldn't compare. It would be great if I could have a contract beast too. Xia Jiqing sighed faintly. She looked at Hong Zhuang having 3 contract beasts and her heart was really envious. If she could also have a cute contract beast by her side, how good would that be? It was just that it was too difficult to get a contract beast. In the entire Xingxian continent, there were very few cultivators who could get a contract beast, and they were all cultivators with good family backgrounds. It was impossible for ordinary people to get a contract beast. As for a cultivator like Hong Zhuang who had contracted 3 beasts, there was probably no one else who could do that other than her. The faces of Gong Shaoqing and the others also changed a bit. If they could, they also hoped that they could get a contract beast. It was just that they really didn't agree. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes lit up. There are so many monsters in this small world. Maybe you can find your own contract beast. No, even if we find a newborn monster, we can't seal it into a monster egg. Dong Fangyu shook his head slightly. It was very difficult to find a newborn monster, let alone seal it into a monster egg. Sealing a monster egg was not something that ordinary people could do. It was something that only some big forces could do. Looking at the helpless look on everyone's face, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, "I will seal the monster egg." With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, everyone was stunned for a moment. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise, their eyes filled with disbelief. "Hongzhuang, what did you say?" Xia Jiqing asked in astonishment. "I said, I will seal the monster egg." Bailey Hongzhuang repeated what she had said. Sealing demonic beasts was indeed a rather complicated process, but she had learned it from the old fellows in her family. Speaking of which, those old guys in the family knew everything, so she had learned a lot from them. However, Xia Jiqing and the others still looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. This was too incredible. One must know that nowadays, there were fewer and fewer cultivators who had contracted monsters. Part of the reason was that there were fewer and fewer cultivators who had the ability to seal monsters. In their situation, they didn't dare to have their own contract beasts, but Hongzhuang actually told them that she could contract them. How was this possible? Such a complicated and mysterious inheritance, Hongzhuang actually knew it. "Hongzhuang, are you telling the truth?" At this moment, Dong Fangyu couldn't help but ask again. Because this answer had really brought them too much shock with it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gracefully, "Why would I lie to you about this kind of thing? I really do." Hearing this, everyone didn't know what expression they had. "Hongzhuang, don't you think you know too many things?" Xia Jiqing sighed helplessly, "In my opinion, I shouldn't ask you what you know, but what you don't know." They were all humans, but the gap between them was too big, right? Chapter 12:29. Dong Fangyu and the others nodded in agreement. Hongzhuang was indeed a heaven-defying existence. Medical skills, alchemy, inscription, and now there was a sealing technique. As long as one mastered any one of these things, it was already a very great existence. However, Hongzhuang not only mastered all of these, but she also mastered them very well. It was really hard for them to imagine how Hongzhuang could have the energy to take care of all of these. Even if Hongzhuang's talent was extremely amazing, it should be impossible without enough effort. In this regard, they had no other way but to sigh. "Jiqing, what you said is too exaggerated." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. "However, as long as we can find a newly born monster beast in the small world and seal it, then you can also contract a monster beast." Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's eyes couldn't help but flash with a glimmer of hope. This was something they had always hoped for, but they didn't expect it to be possible now. This undoubtedly made them surprised. If it's really possible, then it's really great. Xia Jiqing's eyes couldn't hide the excitement. She had wanted to have her own contract monster beast for a long time. The next second, Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang embarrassedly. If we can really find a monster beast cub, Hongzhuang, then we will have to trouble you. She knew that it was not good to trouble Hongzhuang, but she had been looking forward to it for too long, so she could only be thick-skinned. Looking at Xia Jiqing's embarrassed appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. No problem, this is what I should do. Now that they were a group, they should help each other. The improvement of each cultivator's strength meant the improvement of the team's strength. In 2 years, they had to face many powerful cultivators. After receiving Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, a faint smile appeared on everyone's face. Although it was difficult to find a monster beast cub, there were so many monster beasts in the small world. Maybe they really had a chance to find one. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 4 killed demonic beasts all the way to the center of the pocket world. During this process, everyone gained a better understanding of the situation in the small world. At the same time, everyone's strength gradually increased. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Xingyi City. The red clouds of the evening filled the sky, and the entire ground was shrouded in crimson. After a long journey, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally arrived at Xingyi City before nightfall. As soon as the group entered Xingyi City, they could hear the lively chatter in the city. As they approached the center of the mini-world, they saw more and more cultivator teams. However, they tried their best not to interact with other cultivators. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 entered the city, many gazes landed on them. However, in just a short moment, many gazes shifted away. However, there was one gaze that never left Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Liang Xinghui's gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. He had never seen such a beautiful woman. It was completely beyond his imagination. Chapter 1230. In fact, it wasn't just Liang Xinghui. Many cultivators present had noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's outstanding appearance. Among cultivators, women were at a disadvantage. Among the cultivators who were able to participate in the assessment competition, women were already in the minority. A peerless beauty like Bailey Hongzhuang was 1 in a million. Brother Liang, have you taken a fancy to that lady? Beside Liang Xinghui, a man in a gray robe with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks came forward. His eyes were filled with lust. Liang Xinghui glanced indifferently at the man in gray robe. Zhu Cheng, what do you think? Hearing Liang Xinghui's reply, the smile in Zhu Cheng's eyes deepened. Since Liang Xinghui said so, it proved that his guess was correct. As long as Brother Liang takes a fancy to her, isn't it just a matter of saying a word? Zhu Cheng smiled proudly. It's her fortune to be able to catch Brother Liang's fancy. The smile on Liang Xinghui's lips deepened, and there was a hint of desire in his eyes as he looked at the white figure. No man would be willing to let such a woman slip through their fingers. At this moment, another woman walked in front of Liang Xinghui. Her face faintly revealed some displeasure and dissatisfaction. Brother Liang, the cultivators who are able to participate in the assessment competition are all quite strong. I can see that the woman's temperament is extraordinary. It's best not to provoke her to avoid causing trouble. Liang Xinghui and Zhu Cheng couldn't help but glance at the woman. Zhu Cheng spoke first. Xiang Wen, what does this have to do with you? This team only has 5 cultivators. It's obvious that they're from an ordinary dynasty. With our strength, dealing with them won't be a problem at all. If you're even afraid of cultivators from an ordinary dynasty, then why are you participating in the assessment competition? You might as well go back and stay. Following Zhu Cheng's words, a trace of anger appeared on Xiang Wen's face. Zhu Cheng, what do you mean by that? Xiang Wen's gaze was fixed on Zhu Cheng. We participate in the assessment competition to be able to enter a sect and also to win glory for the country. Why do we have to provoke such unnecessary trouble? Isn't this a waste of time? Seeing Xiang Wen's unyielding manner, Zhu Cheng was also dissatisfied. How is this a waste of time? That girl is someone that Brother Liang has taken a fancy to. As he spoke, Zhu Cheng sized up Xiang Wen with a look of ridicule in his eyes. Xiang Wen, I know you like both of them, but why don't you take a look at your beauty? Why would Brother Liang like you? In my opinion, you should give up. Don't do such meaningless things. As soon as these words came out, Xiang Wen's voice became sluggish, and her fair face instantly became extremely ugly. She couldn't help but look at Liang Xinghui with a hint of indignation. Liang Xinghui glanced at Xiang Wen and Zhu Cheng and said, "Stop arguing." After Liang Xinghui spoke, Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen both stopped talking. "Xiang Wen, you don't have to care about this matter." Hearing this, Xiang Wen angrily looked at Zhu Cheng. She did like Liang Xinghui, but she also knew that Liang Xinghui didn't like her. However, Zhu Cheng directly said all this, making her completely lose face. Zhu Cheng glanced at Xiang Wen complacently, then moved closer to Liang Xinghui's side. "Brother Liang, what do you think?" Liang Xinghui smiled indifferently. "Don't you already know?" Chapter 1231. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked towards the inner part of the city. After a day of rushing, they were a little tired and just wanted to find a house to rest. The weather in this small world is really hot. After a day of sweating, I have to go and freshen up. Xia Jiqing couldn't stand the dirty clothes anymore. She just wanted to change into a fresh set of clothes to rest. Looking at Xia Jiqing's unbearable appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all had a smile on their faces. The weather in this small world is indeed like this. Perhaps it is because the sun is strong enough that the plants here can grow so well. Dong Fengyu's face was filled with a spring breeze smile. Compared to Xia Jiqing, his heart was naturally cool. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were looking for a place to stay, a group of people blocked their way. "Miss is so beautiful. How about being my woman?" Liang Xinghui looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. The closer he got, the more he found Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty. When he looked at her from a distance, it was already very shocking. Now that he was so close, he still couldn't see the slightest flaw on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. It could be seen that this woman was a natural beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were originally in a good mood, after seeing the sudden appearance of this tiger, their original smile suddenly disappeared and was replaced by unspeakable disgust. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man in front of her. The man was wearing a black brocade robe. Just from the material of the silk, it could be seen that this man's family was not ordinary. The man's appearance could only be regarded as ordinary, but the strong self-confidence in his eyebrows added a bit of color. Even so, after hearing the man's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's dark phoenix eyes also showed a look of disgust. As soon as he opened his mouth, it could be seen that this man was a playboy. A good dog doesn't block the way. Her red lips slightly opened, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked coldly at Liang Xinghui. Ever since they came to the small world, they had been fighting with demonic beasts for a month and had not had any conflicts with cultivators. However, this did not mean that they were afraid of causing trouble. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the expressions of Liang Xinghui and the others changed. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would say something so powerful. Xia Jiqing and the others couldn't help but chuckle. Nowadays, Hongzhuang's words were getting shorter and shorter. In fact, such an arrogant person who asked to be his woman the moment he opened his mouth, should be treated with such an attitude. Moreover, based on the way the man brought a group of cultivators over, it was obvious that they were not here to negotiate. They were here to kidnap the woman. When the surrounding cultivators saw the conflict between the two teams, they all looked at the scene with interest. In this small world, other than their respective teams, they did not have any friends they were familiar with. It was undoubtedly a very boring life. Therefore, once there was a good show to watch, they would never miss it. The leading woman in white is so beautiful, no wonder Liang Xinghui would stop her halfway. However, looking at the situation, that woman is not a good person. At this moment, it seems that there will be a good show to watch. Chapter 1232. Bailey Hongzhuang's team only had 5 cultivators while Liang Xinghui's team had 8 cultivators. Just this point alone was enough to determine the difference in strength between them. When the assessment competition was selecting cultivators, each empire would have a different number of people. The most ordinary empires would only have 5 spots, while the stronger empires would have 8 spots. If it was some powerful empires, they would have a total of 12 spots. As for the spots that some sects or powerful forces had, there was really no upper limit. Therefore, in this small world, everyone would usually judge the strength of their opponents based on the number of people. The more people there were, the more powerful the opponent was. After all, the larger the empire, the more outstanding cultivators there would be. Cultivators who had a spot were definitely powerful. At this moment, it could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's team was from a small empire while Liang Xinghui's team was from a medium empire. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang's team was definitely at a disadvantage. Liang Xinghui's team obviously did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to say such a thing and could not help but be stunned for a moment. Zhu Cheng immediately stood up and said, "Miss, it's your fortune that the two of them have taken a liking to you. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, "I don't need such fortune." In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang ignored Liang Xinghui's team and immediately walked forward. Liang Xinghui's eyes flashed with displeasure when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang completely ignoring him. Until now, no one had dared to treat him with such an attitude. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang walked past him, Liang Xinghui immediately grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand and swatted Liang Xinghui's hand away. Instantly, her gaze towards Liang Xinghui was filled with fury and coldness. "What are you doing?" Dongfang Yu had already blocked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. His pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with anger. This guy actually dared to act so rudely towards Hongzhuang. Looking at the indignant Dongfang Yu, Liang Xinghui sized him up and chuckled, "So there's a Xiao Bai face acting as a flower protector." As soon as these words came out, the faces of Xia Jiqing and the others flashed with a strong anger. This guy who came out of nowhere had actually been looking for trouble with them. It was really hateful. "What are you? Your words are so unpleasant." Xia Jiqing looked at Liang Xinghui with disgust. This guy's appearance made people extremely unhappy. However, Liang Xinghui simply ignored Xia Jiqing and looked directly at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Do you want to be my woman? In your dreams." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Liang Xinghui with an indifferent expression, rejecting him without leaving any room for negotiation. Where did this guy come from? He looks like he's asking for a beating. Xiao He couldn't help but say. Xiao Bai looked at Liang Xinghui with dissatisfaction, looking a bit speechless. This guy doesn't even look in the mirror. How can he be worthy of master? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Liang Xinghui was not angry. He just sneered, "If you don't agree, then your friends will suffer." Chapter 1233. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at Liang Xinghui's reaction, and the anger in their eyes gradually deepened. This group of people wanted to bully them with their numbers. The onlooking cultivators were not surprised after seeing this scene. In fact, this ending was the result they had expected. The appearance of this woman in white is really 1 in a million. I didn't expect Liang Xinghui to take advantage of her. I saw that this woman in white had an extraordinary temperament and felt that she wasn't from an ordinary family. I didn't expect her to be from a small dynasty. If I had known earlier, I would have taken the lead. As soon as these words came out, everyone had the same feeling. As a man, there were few who wouldn't be tempted in the face of such a woman. It's not too late now. As long as you can beat Liang Xinghui, then this woman is yours. The ridicule of the surrounding cultivators also passed into the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, which made Dongfang Yu and the others even angrier. It was as if these people were treating them as powerless cultivators, as if they were mere objects. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips suddenly evoked an enchanting smile, and her eyes looked at Liang Xinghui faintly. Are you sure you want to do it? Liang Xinghui, who was already fascinated by Bailey Hongzhuang, saw Bailey Hongzhuang's smile and felt like thousands of flowers had bloomed, and his eyes lit up. As long as you are my woman, I won't dare not to do anything. I will also protect you. How about it? Liang Xinghui's face was filled with a proud smile. In his view, Bailey Hongzhuang's words were obviously showing weakness. This kind of ending was what he wanted the most. However, just after Liang Xinghui said this sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang directly greeted him with a fist. Bang! Gotcha! Everyone only heard the sound of bones breaking, and then they saw Liang Xinghui covering his nose as blood overflowed from between his fingers. Under this severe pain, Liang Xinghui couldn't help but bend his body. His painful appearance made tears flow out uncontrollably. Zhu Cheng and the others were completely dumbfounded when they saw this sudden turn of events. No one expected Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly make a move, giving them no time to react. This was simply playing cards that were out of the ordinary. Do you want to die? Xiang Wen was the first to stand up. Although she was happy for Liang Xinghui to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang directly broke Liang Xinghui's nose. This was something she couldn't tolerate. Compared with the anger of Xiang Wen and the others, Xia Jiqing and the others had a smile on their faces. Hongzhuang's punch was really too satisfying. Zhu Cheng stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and took out his weapon. His ferocious appearance was full of vigor. However, facing the attitude of Zhu Cheng and the others, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression remained calm. Cut the crap. If you want to make a move, then make a move. We don't have time to waste here with you. The cold words came out of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth without any warmth. There were many cultivators in Xingyi City. If they didn't show their strength now, there would be a lot of trouble later. Since Liang Xinghui and the others took the initiative to find trouble, she didn't mind cleaning them up. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, Xia Jiqing and the others also took out their weapons. So what if the other party had more people? They weren't scared of anything. Chapter 1234. Anyone who saw the situation in front of them would know that the five of them had no chance of winning. What Zhu Cheng and the others could not understand was that the five of them dared to provoke them. This was really a case of newborn calves not being afraid of tigers. Xiang Wen looked coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. From the moment she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she disliked her from the bottom of her heart. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to take the initiative to attack them, she would directly kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at the sudden change in the situation, the onlooking cultivators were also surprised. I didn't expect the woman in white to be so hot. Her attack was so fierce, completely unexpected. I'm afraid things can't be settled peacefully now. A battle is inevitable. I don't know how strong this team is. If they don't have enough strength to provoke Liang Xinghui, they are really digging their own graves. Everyone was speechless. Liang Xinghui had stayed in Xingyi City for a while, so they had a certain understanding of Liang Xinghui's strength. They were not weak, and the teams of ordinary small empires were definitely not their opponents. It was precisely because of this that everyone was not willing to be enemies with Liang Xinghui and the others. After all, there was no need to offend a strong enemy. Now it could only be said that the woman in white and the others were unlucky. Who asked Liang Xinghui to take a fancy to her? Liang Xinghui endured the severe pain and raised his head. The anger in his eyes was almost spewing out. He had never been treated like this in public until now. What's more, the bridge of his nose was broken. Kill them for me. Liang Xinghui shouted angrily, but mixed with blood, his words were a little slurred. This woman, capture her alive. Liang Xinghui looked coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman dared to treat him like this. He would definitely let this woman taste the pain. As Liang Xinghui's words came out, the primary energy in Zhu Cheng and the others burst out in an instant. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the strength of the other party. One of them was at the 8th level of the Red Realm, 2 of them were at the 6th level of the Red Realm, 3 of them were at the 4th level of the Red Realm, and 2 of them were at the 3rd level of the Red Realm. This kind of strength was indeed not bad among the cultivators. Liang Xinghui did not make a move. In his opinion, there was no need for him to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at everyone. Speaking of which, the disparity in strength between the two teams was indeed quite large. In their team, Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were both at the 5th level of the Red Realm, while Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu were at the 4th level of the Red Realm. Speaking of which, Gong Xiaoqing and the others' progress was not slow. When they participated in the inter-school competition, Gong Xiaoqing had just broken through to the Red Realm, and the others had not yet broken through. Now that more than half a year had passed, their progress was not small. Especially Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu, the progress of the two could be said to be the fastest. However, after the assessment, the cultivators they came into contact with were all genius cultivators from various places. As a result, the gap between them widened. When Zhu Cheng and the others released their auras, Xia Jiqing and the others also released their auras. After understanding the strength of Xia Jiqing and the others, Zhu Cheng and the others' faces showed a disdainful smile. "Ha, 2 of you are at the 5th level of the Red Realm, and 2 of you are at the 4th level of the Red Realm. With such strength, you dare to fight us? I think you are really looking for death." Chapter 1235. Listening to Zhu Cheng's disdainful words, the faces of Gong Xiaoqing and others were a little ugly. After a month of understanding, they found that their strength was not weak in a small dynasty, but in the face of a medium-sized dynasty, the gap was obvious. The reason why they were able to pass the assessment of Tiangang's sect was entirely because of their will to fight. In this situation, they were simply embarrassed to say that they were representing Tiangang's sect to participate in the assessment competition. It was precisely because of this that when all the cultivators mistakenly thought that they were from a small dynasty, they did not make a sound. In their view, with their current strength, they could only claim to be from a small dynasty, so as not to damage the image of Tiangang's sect. Of course, except for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned coldly, and her eyes were stained with a layer of sullen color. She said coldly, "If you have the ability, try it." Zhu Cheng and others smiled at each other, and did not take Bailey Hongzhuang's words to heart. They picked up their weapons and rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang and others. "Remember Brother Liang's words, that woman must be captured alive," Zhu Cheng said. Everyone nodded, and the weapons in their hands attacked without hesitation. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu suddenly rushed to the 2/3 stage Red Realm cultivators, while Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu met the 3/4 stage Red Realm cultivators. In the current situation, they wanted to end the battle quickly, and this was the best way. Zhu Cheng and others also knew the plan of Xia Jiqing and others, but they did not take it to heart. After all, there was still 1/8 stage Red Realm and 2 6th stage Red Realm cultivators who were not useless. In this battle, no matter from which point of view, they were winning. Because this was simply a battle that could not be compared at all. The battle broke out in an instant. Yuanli broke out, and the sound of weapons clashing quickly came out. Zhu Cheng, who was at the 6th stage Red Realm, and Xiang Wen, who was also at the 6th stage Red Realm, attacked Bailey Hongzhuang together. It was the most troublesome to capture her alive. Looking at Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen who intended to capture her alive, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a sneer. With a shift of his mind, origin force surged out of his body. His orange-level aura enveloped Zhu Cheng and the other man. Feeling the sudden pressure, Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen were both stunned. Under such pressure, their speed and fighting strength were suppressed. The sudden emergence of the Orange Realm pressure made all the cultivators present stunned for a moment. They turned their eyes and found that the pressure was actually released by Bailey Hongzhuang. For a moment, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be a cultivator in the Orange Realm? The gap was too big. The smile on Zhu Cheng's face instantly froze. He and Xiang Wen looked at each other, and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. How is this possible? Zhu Cheng cried out in astonishment. This was too inconceivable. It was just a small empire. How could there be an orange-level cultivator? This was too heaven-defying. How can you be an orange-level cultivator? Xiang Wen couldn't believe what she was seeing. It was too hard to believe. Liang Xinghui was also dumbfounded at this moment. He never thought that the woman he had his eyes on was an orange-level cultivator. Even with his cultivation level, he was no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. The odds of winning seemed to have changed at this moment. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's team was not as large as theirs, and the strength of the cultivators was not as strong as theirs. Chapter 1236. Oh my God, I didn't expect this woman in white to be so powerful. It's unbelievable that she came from a small empire. I told you that this woman has an extraordinary appearance and temperament. She doesn't look like an ordinary person, right? As soon as this remark was made, everyone nodded in agreement. Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament was indeed not like an ordinary person. However, the number of people indicated that she came from a small empire. It was really difficult to judge. While Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen were surprised, Bailey Hongzhuang did not give them any time to be stunned. Since they were opponents, there was no need to be polite. Bailey Hongzhuang's mind moved and she immediately used fulgurating shadows. A white wind flashed between the crowd and her speed was completely beyond everyone's expectations. Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen only felt a chill run down their spines and their bodies could not help but tremble. Even though they had already tensed up, they still could not avoid Bailey Hongzhuang's attack. By the time they reacted, Bailey Hongzhuang's palm had already landed on their bodies. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang's two palms landed on their bodies in succession. The two of them seemed to have been hit by a heavy blow, their bodies exploding like cannonballs, slamming into the wall in the distance before stopping. However, the two of them fell heavily on the ground along the wall. They suddenly felt a metallic taste in their mouths and a mouthful of blood spurted out uncontrollably. Fresh blood dyed the ground red, and the auras of the two people instantly withered. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang seriously injured the two of them, everyone sighed in their hearts. This was the strength of an Orange Realm cultivator. Zhu Cheng and Xiang Wen, who were at level 6 of the Red Realm, had no ability to fight back in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly attacked the cultivator at level 8 of the Red Realm. At the same time, Baisher also rushed to Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fongyu's side. It was also at level 5 of the Red Realm. When the Sanming cultivators who were fighting with Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fongyu saw the sudden appearance of Baisher, one of them could not help but attack Baisher. Since Baisher was Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt sorry for Baisher. Based on the current situation, they were no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. If they wanted to escape, capturing this little guy was a good choice. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang did not agree to let them go, he would kill Baisher. At the thought of this, the man was pleased with himself and immediately attacked Baisher. In his opinion, this little guy had no combat power at all. The other two cultivators were overjoyed when they saw the man's actions. This was a chance for them to turn the tables. No matter what, they had to grab hold of it. For a moment, the two cultivators attacked Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fongyu in a frenzy. They didn't want to give them the chance to help Baisher. However, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fongyu were not nervous at all after seeing this scene. Baisher's strength was not weaker than theirs. They thought that these guys would soon regret their actions after knowing Baisher's strength. The surrounding cultivators also felt that this man had made the right decision. They could not help but feel that Liang Xinghui and the others were really lucky. However, in the next moment, all the cultivators present widened their eyes. Hiss! Chapter 1237. In front of everyone's astonished eyes, Baisher leaped and directly bit off the man's neck. The The man's eyes widened. He didn't even have time to scream before he fell to the ground. Baisher didn't know what it meant to be shy. In its eyes, as long as it was an opponent, it would bite them to death. Time seemed to have stagnated for a moment. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze and couldn't recover from the previous situation. Gulp. It was unknown who swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but everyone did the same thing. When they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others again, everyone had completely restrained their previous contemptuous attitude. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked inconspicuous, but not only did they have an Orange Realm cultivator, they even had a very powerful monster. Everyone looked at the snow-white Baisher and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was wearing a white robe. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Like master, like monster. These two guys were pretending to be pigs to eat tigers. He looked harmless to humans and animals, but his attack was so powerful. Liang Xinghui and his group could be considered to have 8 lifetimes of bad luck this time. Liang Xinghui couldn't care less about the pain of his broken nose at this moment. He really couldn't believe that the victory that he thought was in his grasp would be defeated in such a short time. The two cultivators who originally thought that the dead cultivator was extremely smart also widened their eyes at this moment. An unspeakable fear spread in their hearts. The strength of the other party was simply beyond them. Xia Jiqing and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Baisher were so domineering, and their morale was suddenly boosted. The speed of their attacks was also getting faster and faster. For a while, Liang Xinghui and the others were completely defeated. Under the double blow of strength and influence, they simply didn't even have the thought of continuing to fight. Everyone couldn't help but look at Liang Xinghui. In the current situation, if they continued to fight, they would only be wiped out. If they begged for mercy, there might be a glimmer of hope. Feeling everyone's gaze, Liang Xinghui also made a prompt decision and said, "Stop." As soon as these words came out, everyone stopped and looked at Liang Xinghui. At this moment, where was Liang Xinghui's previous dignified appearance? Bright red blood covered his entire face, and even his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. But at this point, he couldn't care less about his image. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Liang Xinghui indifferently. She wanted to see what Liang Xinghui had to say at this moment. "Miss, I had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai previously. Please be magnanimous and let us off this time," Liang Xinghui begged. Under such a great disparity in the trial, he had no other choice but to do so. Looking at this dramatic change, the onlooking cultivators sighed. They did not expect that the situation on both sides would completely change in the end. Liang Xinghui has really lost face this time. First, he was so arrogant, and now he's begging for mercy. What a joke. One look and you can tell that this woman isn't an ordinary person. With his looks, he still wants this woman to be his woman. What a fool's dream. This is going to be interesting. I wonder if they will let Liang Xinghui and the others off. Chapter 1238. In the face of Liang Xinghui's begging for mercy, Bailey Hongzhuang was still unmoved, and her expression was indifferent. "Young Master Liang was so aggressive before, and now you want me to let you go with just a few words? Isn't it too simple?" Her deep black eyes flickered with a cold light. She had never been a soft-hearted person. Liang Xinghui and the others were so aggressive that she was very clear. If the winner was Liang Xinghui and the others, they would not let her go so easily. After seeing this scene, Xia Jiqing and the others slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. They also wanted to see Liang Xinghui and the others begging for mercy. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, the faces of Liang Xinghui and the others could not help but turn ugly. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang's group was not easy to deal with. Thinking of this, Liang Xinghui clenched his teeth, and his face flashed with a hint of struggle. Then, under the burning eyes of everyone, he knelt heavily on the ground. As Liang Xinghui knelt and begged for mercy, Zhu Cheng and the others also knelt down. Perhaps, after this kneeling, they would lose face, but if they did not do so, they would not even have their lives. Between the two, they did not hesitate to choose the former. After all, their lives were the most important. "Miss, please be magnanimous and let us go," everyone said. Liang Xinghui also said, "Miss, as long as you let us go, we will never dare to have any thoughts of revenge in the future. As long as you need us, we will never dare to refuse." For a time, Liang Xinghui and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with hope. Their lives were now completely in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang turned slightly and looked at Xia Jiqing and the others. She wanted to know everyone's thoughts. Xia Jiqing looked at the corpse not far away, and her eyes flashed with a trace of unbearable. She said, "Hongzhuang, let them go this time." Although she was a cultivator, she had mostly killed demonic beasts so far. She rarely killed humans. Liang Xinghui's team had a total of 8 people. She felt that it was too cruel to let all 8 of them die by their hands. Bailey Hongzhuang then looked at Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu. The 2 of them also nodded. Presumably, Liang Xinghui and the others would not dare to have any malicious thoughts towards them. After Liang Xinghui and the others heard Xia Jiqing's words, their eyes flashed with a bright light. Right now, all they wanted was to survive. Bailey Hongzhuang looked deeply at Xia Jiqing and the others before nodding her head, "That's good." As soon as these words were spoken, the worried hearts of Liang Xinghui and the others also relaxed, and their hearts were filled with an indescribable joy. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and looked at Liang Xinghui and the others again. Her clear eyes were filled with indifference and indifference. "This time, we can spare your lives, but you have to pay a price for disturbing us." Liang Xinghui and the others, who were originally happy, heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and their hearts were once again suspended. They looked nervously at Bailey Hongzhuang, not knowing what price Bailey Hongzhuang wanted them to pay. "Hand over the Qianquan bag." Bailey Hongzhuang stretched out her white palm, her face cold and ruthless. Anyone who harbored evil intentions against them would have to pay the price. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice sounded again. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, Liang Xinghui and the others really wanted to cry. They had nothing to hand over. At this moment, they didn't even have food. They were completely paupers. Xia Jiqing and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang strangely. They didn't know what Bailey Hongzhuang was going to do at this time. Chapter 1240. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words falling, Liang Xinghui and the others were like they had been pardoned. They picked up their Qianquan bags, stood up and ran. The way they ran was as if they were afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang would ask them to wait. Then, they would really want to die. Looking at Liang Xinghui and the others running away without any image, Xia Jiqing and the others couldn't help but laugh. "Ha, you are really looking for trouble." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips had an enchanting smile. Her casual and indifferent appearance revealed a bit of unrestrained taste, but her deep black eyes still couldn't see the bottom. Her cold eyes looked around. The cultivators who had been watching immediately turned around and didn't dare to continue to look. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not to be provoked in their eyes. If they provoked them, it was tantamount to asking for trouble. Seeing that everyone was so tactful, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to Xia Jiqing and the others and said, "Let's go." Xia Jiqing and the others nodded. They were very tired, and then such a thing happened. They really should take a rest. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to walk forward, and Baisher once again jumped on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. That lazy and cute appearance was not fierce at all. However, now everyone no longer dared to treat Baisher as a monster without any threat. This kind of combat power was stronger than some cultivators. The surroundings were silent. Until Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked away, the crowd couldn't help but speak. "I don't know which dynasty this girl is from. Looking at this team, it should be a small dynasty. How can there be an Orange Realm cultivator? It's really strange. This woman should have a good origin. That contract beast, do you know what kind of monster it is?" "I don't know, I have never seen this monster before." Everyone was puzzled. Contracted beasts were not something an ordinary cultivator could have. Not only did Bailey Hongzhuang have one, but the level of this demon beast was also very high. Liang Xinghui and the others quickly fled. After entering the room, they locked the door tightly. Now, they had lost all their dignity and did not have the face to face the other cultivators. "Brother Liang, what was in the Qianquan bag that woman threw to us just now?" Zhu Cheng's eyes flashed with a curious light. He never thought that the woman would actually give them a Qianquan bag in the end. Liang Xinghui was also curious. He immediately opened the Qianquan bag and saw that it was full of dried food. There was nothing else except for food. Seeing that it was full of food, Zhu Cheng couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. "I didn't expect this girl to not be so bad. At least she left some food for us. We won't starve to death." Everyone sighed in their hearts. If they handed over their Qianquan pouches, they wouldn't even have anything to eat. Chapter 1241. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "It's just some food inside. If we don't leave some food for them, I'm afraid they will find a chance to attack other cultivators." In fact, this was also a psychological tactic. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing also understood and immediately chuckled. "Hongzhuang, you are really amazing. Although a group of troubles suddenly appeared, our harvest is not small. How about we divide these points equally?" The delicate and beautiful face flashed with a charming light. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. If they relied on hunting monsters, they would have to spend some time to get these points. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and had their own thoughts. If it were not for Hongzhuang, with their strength, not only would they not be able to get these points, but they would also fall into the hands of Liang Xinghui and others. These points, they were not worthy of it. "Hongzhuang, you have the majority of these points, we did not contribute much." Gong Shaoqing, who had always been quiet, suddenly spoke. Hongzhuang was so generous, they could not take advantage of her. They also understood the situation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Among all of them, Bailey Hongzhuang was under too much pressure. An ordinary person with no background wanted to become the wife of the young lord of Tiangang's sect. The pressure she had to bear was definitely not something ordinary people could bear. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to become a woman worthy of Di Beichen, and she must pay a lot of hardships. He believed that with Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, she could be a match for him, but it would take some time. A large part of the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang participated in this assessment competition was to prove her strength to others. Therefore, this result was very important to her. On the contrary, for them, this result was equally important, but compared with Bailey Hongzhuang, it was not so urgent. With Gong Shaoqing's voice falling, Xia Jiqing and the others also nodded. "Gong Shaoqing is right, Hongzhuang, we can't divide these points equally," Xia Jiqing said. Looking at the appearance of Gong Shaoqing and the others, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a strange light, but she quickly reacted and immediately said, "We are a team, this is our spoils of war. Naturally, we have to divide it equally." Dongfang Yu waved his hand and said, "Hongzhuang, in my opinion, these points should be divided according to the degree of effort." A serious look appeared on her white and delicate face. "This matter can't be divided according to the degree of effort. Did you guys not do this battle?" As soon as these words came out, Dongfang Yu and the others' expressions, they had indeed tried their best, but the effect was not that great. Seeing everyone's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang continued, "Since we are a team, there is no need to care about these things. No matter who is in trouble, we will do our best. That is enough. In this small, facing to they. Only in this way can they be invincible. If they did things according to Dongfang Yu's method, sooner or later, there would be problems. What's more, she really treated Dongfang Yu and the others as friends, so she didn't care about this kind of thing. Chapter 1242. At this moment, Gong Shaoqing and the rest secretly decided that Hongzhuang's matters would be their matters in the future. they would not hesitate to go through fire and water. Bailey Hongzhuang did not know what everyone was thinking and immediately distributed the points equally to everyone. In the small world, points could be snatched from each other. Because of this, the conflicts between cultivators were not small. After all, the points for killing a demonic beast were limited, but snatching points from cultivators was much faster. Now that they had only been in the small world for less than a month, everyone did not have many points on hand. Therefore, the competition was slightly smaller. Bailey Hongzhuang could imagine that the closer it was to the end of the assessment, the more horrifying the competition between the cultivators would be. There were almost no rules in the assessment. It was completely survival of the fittest, and strength spoke. Weak cultivators did not have any right to speak here. Many cultivators from small empires were completely wiped out here, and no one pitied them. And it was precisely this kind of environment that gave people a sense of urgency. Everyone was trying their best to raise their own strength, to guard against demonic beasts, and even more so against cultivators. Under such circumstances, the trust between team members was extremely important. Only in this way would they be able to go further in the competition. After the points were distributed evenly, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the Qianquan bag. This group of people came from a middle-sized empire. I think there should be quite a lot of things in the Qianquan bag. Everyone, see if there is anything you need. If there is anything you need, take it and distribute it. Once the Qianquan bag was opened, most of it was food. However, there were also many other things such as elixirs, martial skills and medicinal herbs. Seeing the elixirs and martial skills, everyone's eyes lit up. To cultivators, the most difficult things to obtain were elixirs and martial skills. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the elixirs in the Qianquan bag. Most of them were energy recovery elixirs and healing elixirs. She had prepared quite a number of these. Let's split these elixirs, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Although these elixirs were prepared, energy recovery elixirs and healing elixirs were the most needed. In 2 years, everyone would have used up quite a lot. Therefore, it could be said that the more pills there were, the better. Hearing this, everyone took a few bottles each, and a joyful smile appeared on their faces. This mid-sized empire really lives up to its reputation. Everyone's pockets are full. Our harvest this time is not small. Bai Junyu's face rippled with an excited smile. These things were really the most important in the small world. Now that Liang Xinghui and the others had lost all these, they were probably extremely depressed right now. Hongzhuang is still the best. I didn't think of this before. Xia Jiqing sighed, but I will know next time. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the martial skills from her Qianquan bag and said, "You can choose the martial skills you need." She knew that Gong Shaoqing and the others were lacking in martial skills. Martial skills were usually sold at sky-high prices at auctions. If one did not have a certain family background, it would be extremely difficult to obtain a martial skill just by relying on one's own efforts. Gong Shaoqing and the others were not weak, but the level of their martial skills was not high enough, so they could not fully display their strength.
Chapter 1243. Liang Xinghui and the others didn't have many martial skills in their Qianquan bags, but Gong Shaoqing and the other 3 all found martial skills that were suitable for them. Everyone looked at the martial skills in their hands with joy, but found that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't choose anything. Their expressions changed a bit. "Hongzhuang, why don't you want anything?" Xia Jiqing couldn't help but ask. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "I have all these things." She had already looked at these martial skills. Most of them were yellow-level martial skills or even profound-level martial skills. She also had these martial skills. Instead of practicing these martial skills that she had never touched before, it was better to practice the martial skills that she had mastered in her previous life. She had enough experience, so it would be faster for her to cultivate again. What's more, although Yang Xinghui and the others came from a medium-sized dynasty, their martial skills were absolutely incomparable to the martial skills of the Bailey family. She didn't intend to neglect the essentials. In comparison, she was more interested in the medicinal herbs in the qiankun bag. This was because there were some medicinal herbs that were rarely seen in ordinary days. Hong Zhuang, you should at least choose something that you need, right? Dong Feng you couldn't help but say. Hong Zhuang was clearly the youngest among them, but now she was the most modest and mature, which made them feel ashamed. Bailey Hong Zhuang originally didn't think that this situation was a big deal because she really didn't need it. However, after looking at everyone's expressions, she realized that they didn't think so. She immediately smiled and said, "How about giving these medicinal herbs to me?" Following Bailey Hong Zhuang's words, everyone nodded. No problem. In addition, Hong Zhuang, do you need any of these martial skills? Gong Shaoqing handed over the qiankun bag in his hand. He knew that Hong Zhuang herself was an alchemist, and these ordinary pills were of no use to her. Seeing this, Xia Jiqing and the others also took out their own martial skills. Yes, Hong Zhuang, do you need any of these martial skills? As they spoke, everyone rushed to be the first to pass the martial skill to Bailey Hong Zhuang. Seeing everyone like this, Bailey Hong Zhuang couldn't help but chuckle. I'm telling the truth. I really don't need these martial skills. I have my own martial skills. You guys can take them and cultivate at ease. Hearing this, everyone looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang. After seeing that Bailey Hong Zhuang didn't look like she was faking it, everyone was relieved. After everyone left, satisfied, Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curled into a smile. Thinking about it, everyone couldn't wait to practice their new martial skills. The level of these martial skills was higher than what everyone had cultivated before.
If they could learn them, everyone's strength would increase. That would be the best. Master, are you going to let those guys off just like that? After everyone left, Xiao Hei's worried voice rang out. What they did today didn't leave any leeway for Liang Xinghui and the others, not to mention that they had snatched the qiankun bag and points. Needless to say, Liang Xinghui and the others must hate them to the extreme. If they tried their best to find trouble, it would also be troublesome. With a trace of seriousness in her dark eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "It's time for the black-white double demons to make a move." Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's faces suddenly showed excitement. "Master, what do you want us to do?" Chapter 1244. Go and see what those guys are planning to do. If they have completely cut off their evil intentions, then forget it. If they still want revenge, then cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. There was a cold and cruel light in her deep phoenix eyes. If you cut the weeds and don't eliminate the roots, they will grow again when the spring breeze blows. She had always been very clear about this truth. However, Xia Jiqing and the others were all students of the academy before, and they did not understand the real cruelty. She could not force them to accept it, and could only wait for them to truly understand it in the future. The small world had never been a peaceful place. On the contrary, it was extremely cruel here. In 2 years' time, they would definitely understand. There were many things that needed to be done by oneself. Just like when she went to the Bloodland Abyss, Bewitching was worried about her. The reason why she finally threw a qiankun bag to Liang Xinghui and the others was to make them give up on the idea of revenge. This was a psychological tactic. At least she had not forced Liang Xinghui and the others into a dead end. Even so, she still could not guarantee that those guys would completely give up on the idea of revenge. Therefore, she needed Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai to go and take a look. With Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's ability to change their size at will, they were born to be spies. No one would find them at all. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's eyes also lit up. It seemed that their master had the same idea as them. "Don't worry, master, leave this task to us," Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai said excitedly. This kind of thing could not be easier for them. Baisher blinked his big watery eyes and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, saying, "Master, I want to go too." Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baisher's little head. Without Baisher's bite today, today's battle would not have been over so quickly. Baisher, your performance today is already very powerful. You don't have to go. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a charming smile. Today, Baisher's image was also well known by everyone. If he went out now, he would be immediately recognized by everyone. If some cultivators who had evil intentions towards White Lion were to see it, they would probably think of ways to capture White Lion. Bailey Hongzhuang's praise was obviously very effective on Baisher. Baisher obediently lay on Bailey Hongzhuang's lap. Alright then. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately walked out of the house. They had to understand the situation as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a few demon crystals and handed them to Baisher. This little guy's appetite was increasing day by day. According to Xiao He and Xiao Bai's guesses, White Lion was not far from breaking through again. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang had been feeding White Lion more and more demon crystals. Breakthroughs often required a lot of energy. Although Baisher was still very young, she believed that Baisher knew what he was doing. If Baisher's strength could increase, it would also be a good thing. After Xiao He and Xiao Bai walked out of the house, they quickly found the place where Liang Xinghui and the others were staying. Because of what had happened previously, almost all the cultivators in the city were talking about it. Many people were also paying attention to the tightly shut doors of Liang Xinghui and the others, guessing when they would come out. Therefore, Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately found their destination. When Xiao He and Xiao Bai entered the house through the crack in the door, they saw Liang Xinghui and the others gathered together. Their expressions were very ugly. You're all injured. You'd better recuperate. Chapter 1245. Everyone is laughing at us now. Won't we be embarrassing ourselves if we go out now? Xiang Wen's face was filled with dissatisfaction. She was the most unhappy among everyone. She was already dissatisfied with Liang Xinghui and Zhu Cheng's plan. Now that this had happened, it was clear that her previous judgment was right. Hearing Xiang Wen's words, Liang Xinghui and the rest's faces were extremely ugly. Speaking of which, this matter was completely caused by their evil thoughts. That woman in white has gone overboard. We must avenge her. Xiang Wen could not hide the anger on her face. She had never suffered such humiliation since she was young. When she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's high and mighty appearance, she was even more furious. She only wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. Zhu Cheng's face revealed a troubled expression. That woman in white is so powerful. We're no match for her at all. I advise you to give up on this idea. Indeed. That woman in white is already merciful enough to let us go today. If we continue to cause trouble, we won't even be able to keep our lives. At least she left us some food. Compared to the other opponents, this is already very good. Everyone spoke out. At this moment, they did not even have the slightest intention of becoming enemies with Bailey Hongzhuang. Under the absolute disparity in strength, seeking revenge was simply courting death. In order to save their lives today, they did not hesitate to endure this humiliation. If they still wanted to seek revenge, there would definitely be something wrong with their brains. Seeing everyone's attitude, Xiang Wen could not help but be anxious. Why are all of you so useless? Liang Xinghui glanced at Xiang Wen and said, since things have come to this, Xiang Wen, you don't have to say anymore. Today's matter can only be considered as my own fault. Even though my Qiankuan bag and points have been snatched away, it's still early before the assessment ends. We still have a chance. Just as everyone had said, Liang Xinghui had also given up on the idea of revenge. In the end, he was the one who had started this matter. It was already fortunate that the woman had let them go. Instead of seeking revenge, why not completely destroy the other cultivators? This way, they could quickly make up for their points. Seeing that everyone had the same idea, Xiang Wen was even more furious. However, there was nothing she could do about it. Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other when they saw this scene. A sly smile appeared in their eyes. It seemed that they had overestimated the courage of Liang Xinghui and the others. Now, they didn't have to worry about their revenge. Soon, Xiao He and Xiao Bai returned to Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Master, you can rest assured now. Liang Xinghui and the others have no intention of taking revenge, Xiao He said with a smile. Xiao Bai told Bailey Hongzhuang about the conversation between Liang Xinghui and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. In that case, we can rest assured. This result was more or less what she had expected, because there was a big gap between the strength of Liang Xinghui and the others. Even if Liang Xinghui's strength was only at level 9 of the Red Realm, it was not realistic for him to take revenge on them. Bailey Hongzhuang took out Xiao He and Xiao Bai's dry food and began to cultivate. During this month, they had been hunting monsters during the day and did not have much time to cultivate. Chapter 1246. Liang Xinghui and the others only felt that it was too shameful to stay in Tsingyi City, so they got up and left early the next morning. They were not willing to stay in Tsingyi City for even half a second. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stayed in Tsingyi City for a few more days. Xia Jiqing and the other three had just obtained the martial arts technique and needed some time to cultivate. Therefore, in the past few days, Xia Jiqing and the other three all closed their doors and began their retreat. Bailey Hongzhuang understood the situation and did not ask much. She also began to cultivate her martial arts technique. 5 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others once again set off on their journey. After leaving Tsingyi City, the people walked into the forest. Killing the monsters was something they had to do. Whether it was for the Xingxian continent or for their achievements, it was also for Baisher's food. Bailey Hongzhuang found that after a few days, Baisher's appetite was getting bigger and bigger. It could be seen that he was getting closer and closer to a breakthrough. Therefore, she wanted to try her best to find some higher-level monsters to feed Baisher. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked in the dense forest. The sun shone through the gaps in the trees and faintly shone on everyone. The 5 of them held their weapons tightly. Their clothes were a bit messy and there were traces of the previous battle. After staying in the small world for a month, everyone had a strong feeling about the fighting power and speed of the monsters here. Fortunately, these monsters were trapped in the small world. The level of fighting here was completely different from the monsters in the outside world. They had to be very careful to avoid injury. The only thing to be thankful for was that so far they had not met any monsters that were too strong. However, every time they explored the forest, they were still nervous. Suddenly, Baisher's eyes flashed with a light. He looked ahead with a burning gaze, as if he had seen something extraordinary. "Master, follow me," Baisher said excitedly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with doubt. "Baisher, what did you find? There seems to be a treasure." With a leap, White Lion charged forward. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also followed closely and said to Gong Shaoqing and the others, "Baisher seems to have found something. Let's go and take a look." Gong Shaoqing and the others immediately reacted. They immediately sped up and followed Bailey Hongzhuang all the way to the front. The 3 beasties were in the front, with Bailey Hongzhuang following closely behind. Xia Jiqing and the others were not too far behind. "I also feel the existence of a treasure." Blackie's eyes were filled with excitement. As a beast king, White Lion's ability to sense natural treasures was stronger than theirs. Xiao Baisher, Baisher and Baisher, Baisher and Baisher, Baisher and Baisher and Xiao Bai. It should be a medicinal herb. Bailey Hongzhuang followed behind the 3 beasties. After hearing their words, her deep phoenix eyes were filled with excitement. Baisher was Baisher. A medicinal herb that could make the 3 beasts so excited was definitely not of a low level. The medicinal herbs in the small world forest were much richer than the outside world because there were too many people picking medicinal herbs in the outside world. On the contrary, there were very few medicinal herbs in the small world. Not for other reasons, but because there were not many cultivators in the small world who knew about medicinal herbs. However, all the cultivators who could participate in the assessment competition were strong. Most of them put all their time into cultivation and did not pay attention to other things. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.